Hi there, this is Mr. Jenkin, and we're going to talk a little bit about grades and how we're doing it in the math department this year. So everybody knows that the grade for your semester is made up of the final exam, which is 20%, and everything else, which is 80%. Now, in PowerSchool, the final is usually called E1 or E2 if it's a second semester. The semester is S1, that's your final grade for the semester, and everything else is your term grade, so that would be identified as T1. So if you're calculating your grade, for example, let's say that for the whole term in the first semester, you have a 93%. And then you go about to the final exam, and on the final exam, you score an 85%. Well, the way your final grade is calculated, would be calculated there, is you have 93 times 0.8, that's the 80% right there, and 85 times 0.2, that's the 20% right there. And just so you know that I can't do all these things in my head, I'm going to use a calculator, so I go 93 times 0.8, and that equals 74.4, and then I'm going to do 85 times 0.2, and that gives me 17. That one I probably could have done in my head. And so my final grade for the semester, well, that would be a 1, would be a 91.4%. And that's the way you would calculate it. So we're going to be doing something a little bit different in the math department this year, because this everything else is going to be divided up into 10%. Whoops, let's get rid of this, sorry. Get rid of that. Of what we're going to call a homework check. And 90% is going to be everything else. It's going to be any tests, any quizzes, any projects, everything else. But this is going to be in this 90-10 split. So it's going to make things a little bit confusing when you're looking at PowerSchool, or it could be a little bit confusing when you're looking at PowerSchool. Because the homework check is going to be pretty much every week. And it's going to be a very short little, probably like a one-problem quiz that's going to come from the practice problems that you've been recommended to do sometime in the past. It's not going to be like the day before. We'll give you some time to do the practice problems and understand them, be able to ask questions. But every week there's going to be this little homework check. So what's going to happen, since quizzes and tests don't happen that frequently, is you might get like an A on a homework check, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then comes to the exam. I don't know, something happens, you're not feeling so great, and you get a B. Well, this B here is 90% of your term grade. All these A's are only 10% of your term grade. So let's kind of do an example and see how that works. So let's say we start out the year and we have a homework check and you get a 5 out of 5. And then we get another homework check and it's a 5 out of 5. And another homework check and it's a 5 out of 5. And another homework check is a 5 out of 5. So on these homework checks, you've gotten 20 points out of 20 possible. So you've got 100%. And you're looking at this and you're saying, oh, I have in red, I have an A here, and an A here, and an A here, and an A here. And then along comes a quiz. and you get 87%. I don't know what the points might be, but 87%, we'll call that that's a B plus. Yeah, okay. So you're saying, well, I have 4 A's and a B plus, I should still have an A. But let's look at the math on this. Well, we have 100% times 0.1, which is the 10% number here. The homework checks are only worth 10%. 100% times 0.1, so that would be worth 10 points. And an 87 times 0.9, well, that's equal to 78.3. So our total score up until that point is an 88.3. Well, that's not an A, that's a B plus. But you're looking at, on all you're seeing is A, and then 1 B plus. The question is, why is my grade only a B plus? Well, it's because you have to take into consideration that all these homework checks A's, no matter how many of them they are only worth 10% of your term grade. So this is a confusion. I hope not too much. If you have any questions on it, it's easy enough to come to one of your math teachers and ask them to explain to you why your grade isn't what you think it should be with all these A's in a row. But it's important to be aware of this from the very beginning so that we don't have any surprises during the year, and especially towards the end of the year.